All right, let's do it. First
live.
First live.
We're live. We're live in the studio.
Yeah, exactly. Make believe studio. Probably easier. I'll just get James to fucking do it next time. All right. So let's. Usually I can look at the screen and then talk at the same time. So this week, I'll talk in the camera. This week we're proud to bring our first in-studio guest to eCommerce Australia, who has created, I'm going to do him a great injustice here by, I'm sure you've accomplished more than this, but the founder of 3 e-commerce businesses, including Shader Australia, Tumble Bear, and what was the third one?
Phantom Hardware.
Phantom Hardware, exactly. However, he's done so much more than that. As we'll get into, he's now the founder of Sellar Capital, always got plenty on the go, previous history in winning a reality TV show as well, and from what I've learnt lately, he's a tragic and mad Carlton supporter. So, usually we say commiserations, but
good time, good time for to be a Blues supporter.
You've timed this well, haven't you?
No, I actually saw on the I saw yesterday on Instagram we were 15th in round 15.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. Somehow we've survived. So yes, go the Blues. We play this weekend against Brisbane. So let's see how we go.
And thoughts on the game?
Look, well, I was at the Melbourne game, and I think that was the best sporting event I've ever been to.
Yeah, right.
The crowd was just insane. I don't think we played all that well, but we managed to grind out a win, which is what we seem to do really well. So, mate, I think we can beat Brisbane, obviously, but it's going to be tough. Yeah,
they haven't lost a game there all year.
I know. Yeah.
They've had the luxury of a couple of week break, and there's no excuses for them. Like if you can get the job done, it's probably almost your grand final.
I'm not even going to get to watch the game because I've got a wedding on.
Oh, who does that?
I know.
Really? Yeah. That's typical Carlton, isn't it? You don't think?
My wife's best friend is getting married in Sydney, so I'm in Sydney, and the wedding is over the game, so I'm not even going to get to. I'm going to be one of those guys where I'm like looking at my phone, looking at the wedding.
I wouldn't be able to handle that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's maybe you turn your phone off and then watch it, but there'll be people that spoil the scores, I'm sure, at the wedding.
Absolutely.
Mate, let's get into your background and your journey into e-commerce. Obviously, one of the reasons I got you on, I wanted to speak to you, was around your product development, which is something that we haven't really touched on in the podcast. But let's start with your background and your journey into e-commerce, and then we can talk more broadly around how you sort of create products and then markets into China and things like that. So
sure.
Where did it all start?
So I actually, the first business that I had, I traded wine in China.
Okay.
So it started in my early 20s, and I was trading Australian wine into China, and I'm 36 now, so it was probably 15 years ago that I was doing this. And I had a Chinese business partner, a guy who was in his 50s, a Chinese guy. I was getting the wine on the Australian side, he was getting the clients on the China side, and it was quite young back then. Like, it's a massive business now, and well, since the tariffs had stopped, but prior to that it was huge. And so we were sort of pioneering something. And then, as it turned out, it was probably one of my worst business experiences, and it was an early one where the guy kind of cut me out once we started getting some really good success. So, I was a young guy, I made a lot of mistakes, and very ambitious, just didn't do the right things with the business structure, and I was able to be cut out of that. And so, that was my first taste of it, and I learned a lot of lessons the hard way on that one. But then, as you said, I was lucky enough to go on a reality TV show called The Big Adventure, and I won that show, and the prize for that was $1 million. So I was 26 with $1 million.
Brilliant.
And I always had been an entrepreneur, and actually, what I really wanted to be was a property developer, which I am now, thankfully. But there's only 2 ways you can be a property developer. You either have a lot of money and you invest in properties and develop properties, or you start building yourself up towards that. And so, through my teens and early 20s, I was trying to save as much money as I can, buy houses, and go that way. And then, of course, I won the money, so then I got sort of a leapfrog moment where I had cash, so I could invest in property, and I did. And then I had the opportunity with Phantom hardware, I started that in 2016. I started that, I think. And that started off just as a single product. We had one SKU, just the white Phantom doorstop. And it was the only product, like the one SKU that we had.
Really?
And we sold it into one store in South Australia. That business went, its moment, I suppose, that really sort of just like slingshot the business forward was we had a video that we did, and this is probably the power of social media. We had a video and we just we put it out on Facebook, and it wasn't doing much. It was just some interest. And then there's a Facebook page called 9 Home, which is Channel 9's home home version of their Facebook page, and it got picked up by 9 Home, and then it just went. Everyone started sharing it and sharing it and sharing it, and it went completely viral. Had 50, 60 million views over the space of like a week or something.
Before things were going viral, essentially.
And it was on Facebook too. So like TikTok didn't exist. Instagram did, but it wasn't as prevalent, and it just went mad. And so that viral video, which we didn't spend a cent on any ad budget, it just was purely organic. That just sent that business forward so fast, and we got all of these distributor inquiries from all over the world. And so then
for a doorstop,
it was just a really unique. It was different, but it was very simple at the same time. So you could see the video, you could see how it worked, and it was very self-explanatory. So it was, with product development, I always say like the simplest ideas are the best ideas. And so and that one was a really good one. And so that business, because of a really good video, and I talk about content a lot now, the importance of having really good content and not just pumping ads into things. You've got to have clever content. Because of that video, that business, exists.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And so that Phantom hardware, that was just the one product that you didn't
No,
build.
we did, yeah. We expanded that out. So quite quickly after the video, people were saying, hey, can I get different colours, and will it work on this sort of door? And all of a sudden the SKU range went from 1 to about 40 or 50 quite quickly. And then the business got acquired in 2021 by a private investment group, bought it. And at that stage, we were selling in about 80 countries. And we had over, I think, 120 or 130 SKUs.
Wow.
And so it really just, it was one good product, and then it was good marketing throughout the journey, and then it was getting distributors, and then having really strong IP. So the Phantom doorstop had and has really strong IP patents around the functionality of the stop, how the pin comes up and how the pin is caught by the striker plate. We patented that process. And so we licensed that to bigger companies, and then those bigger companies rebranded the Phantom doorstop their own brand. We supplied it to them, and then that, again, helped us expand into more and more countries. So there's so many ups and downs, but it was I learned a lot from that business.
Interesting. And even looking towards Tumble Bear and Shader, like they're really simple businesses. I'm not sure if anyone's I'm sure people have heard of them and purchased them, but we'll go into them in a minute. But it doesn't seem to me that you're scared of going to different markets that perhaps you don't know at the time, or like what's the process for you? I'm probably skipping ahead a little bit here, but in terms of like new products, how did you come up with the doorstop? What was the need for that?
The way that you the way I invent anything is actually just circumstantially. So I don't ever just sit down and go, all right, I'm going to invent something. It's not how it works. It's you have to just be living your life. You come across something that happens or something that you just find inconvenient, and you think, oh, there must be a better way than this. And so, like, for example, the Tumble Bear hats, which for anyone that doesn't know is a impact-reducing children's hat. You can find them at Big W, Baby Bunting. That came up just by having a conversation with my brother-in-law, Josh. We were having a beer, and I said, oh, how's Sophie, which is his daughter? And he goes, oh, yeah, she's good, but she bumped her head. And he showed me a photo, and she had this big bump in her hairline. And at the time, I was like, oh, geez, mate, that's pretty bad. Like that looks bad.
Yeah.
And he said, oh yeah, it's just kids, like they're so clumsy, they hurt themselves a lot. They just, she's bumped her head heaps of times. And it was like this, well, not light bulb moment, but almost like a light bulb moment. Like, there's got to be something that can protect kids from, like, if every kid's pretty clumsy because they're finding their feet, they run into things, they're learning how to walk and run. Obviously, they're going to hurt themselves. And kids are obviously very precious and you don't want them to get hurt. And it was just like this moment, I was like, surely there's a better way. Surely you could do something to protect your kid's head.
Yeah, yeah.
And my mind went back to a product that I was actually presented years prior in America, and it's a skull cap that people wear underneath NFL helmets.
Okay.
And it's just this very thin impact-reducing foam, but it gave me the inspiration, seeing this foam work, thinking, I wonder if that foam or similar foam could go into a children's hat to make it impact-reducing.
Yeah.
And so it's such a simple product, like it's literally a kid's hat with foam in it.
Yeah.
But doing it, that's probably downplaying how hard it was to actually make it work.
Imagine,
but it still took a long time of developing the product, making sure the foam could fit inside the hat so that you couldn't see it, making sure that the hats actually did something, because there's no point having like a gimmick and saying, oh yeah, they're good, but they don't actually do anything. So there's a lot of testing we had to go through to make sure that they actually had impact reducing qualities. And then we went live with that business. But in answer to your question, when I invent anything, it is literally just a circumstantial thing. You're either doing something or talking to someone, and something happens that's either inconvenient or dangerous, and you think, oh, well, surely you could do something better.
Yep.
And then you come up with whatever that thing is that would be better, and then you just research it and see, did I just invent something, or have I just come up with something that's existed for 10 years?
Yeah, 100%. And so how many of those sorts of different things, like ideas that you've had, you thought it's a brilliant idea, and you go, oh my gosh, shit, it already exists?
All the time, literally. And so people come to me quite often now through LinkedIn a lot, and they say, hey, I've got this great business idea, can I run it past you? And I always say, yeah, sure, go for it. I'm always happy to help fellow entrepreneurs and inventors. And you would be so surprised how often the ideas that these people have, and me, I've done it so many times, that you get invested in this idea and you think you've invented something, and you actually, I don't know if it's out of fear that you don't want to get let down, but they don't Google it. They don't search to see if it exists. And then when they do, it's like, fuck, this is everywhere. Like, I've literally invented something. I got excited about it. I've even given it a name in my head, and it's a product. It exists. It's everywhere. Yeah. So I always say to anyone developing a product, the first thing you got to do is just Google it. Just make sure you haven't invented something that already exists. Yeah.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
And if you go too far down the funnel and you go, geez, I should actually look at this.
You've got to. You have to. It's like that story. I think it was in Africa somewhere. A tribe who were detached from society, so they had no access to society, but they invented the windmill.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually invented it because they'd never seen it before. So as far as they were concerned, they'd invented it. But of course, it's been around for probably a century or longer, but they'd never seen one. So they actually did invent it. It's the same sort of thing. You can invent it, but just because you didn't know that it exists doesn't mean it doesn't.
Yeah, true. 100%. And so we've spoken about Tumble Bear and then Shader Australia, which I was on the website the other day. It's an awesome. A lot of your stuff, and this sounds like a negative, but it's just simple, like functional, one product type thing. And so I was on the website, and looks amazing. I'm like, geez, I need to get one for myself, and I go down the beach and try and read and try and protect the face a little bit. How did that one come about?
So Shader's story is actually similar to that of Phantom in that it was an idea that we had. So we had a small team at Phantom, and because we had the means and the ability to create products, because we had a team of people, a small team, This idea was thrown around. Could we create a beach shade for just your face that would protect your face, but you could still tan in comfort? And we were actually not sure if it would work.
Yeah.
Like when the concept was thrown around, we thought it's so gimmicky, but it has a place, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. But will people want it? So we put it on Kickstarter. And
Okay.
I've never used Kickstarter before. It's the first time we'd ever tried it. And so those people that don't know how Kickstarter works, Kickstarter is basically you have a concept, you create a prototype, and then you put it onto Kickstarter, and people support you and buy them or donate money towards your goal, your target goal that you would need to develop that product. And you've got, I think it's a month, and then after a month you either reach your target or which is the cash, or you don't.
Yep.
And so we put it on Kickstarter, and I think our target was $50,000 or something, or $25,000. I can't really remember. But the Kickstarter campaign just went phenomenally well, and I think we did $200,000 in a month.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and it went so well. And then, but that was similar to Phantom in that it was literally just a really good video.
Yeah, yeah.
So we went and did a video. It was me and my wife down the beach using the shader with all of its functionalities. And I was still, even at that stage, a bit apprehensive. Like, I don't know if I fully believed in it. I just thought this will either be really good or it just will do nothing.
Yep.
And so we went live on Kickstarter, and the first few days it did nothing, and we thought, like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And then same thing, it got picked up by a few pages on Facebook again. It was Facebook that did it, and it just went nuts. Like, it went totally viral. I think that video and variations of it got viewed 130 odd million times.
Wow.
It went nuts.
Jeez.
And so, like Phantom, it was just so important that we had really good video content.
Yep.
And it wasn't ads driven, it was just organic.
Just
it was interesting, people liked it, and it just worked.
Yeah, and UGC, before UGC was probably a thing as well. Like, no one would have been talking to UGC, it just resonated.
Yeah, and it just worked. And so, both of those have been really propped up by great content.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. That's good. I like a story on great content.
Yeah.
And so, how did you grow? Last question on these businesses before we get into sort of some product development stuff. But how did you grow those businesses? Was it SEO? Was it paid? Was it just purely video, viral video with no paid component, or what was the e-com strategy around those?
So with Phantom, and this may not be. I mean, some of this would be relevant to today, and others it wouldn't be because it was a while ago. We had the viral videos, which were totally not paid. We didn't pay a cent for any of those, and that helped us get, I think, like that first big leap forward. But then with Phantom, we identified that probably the best place to make money with Phantom was through distribution.
Yep.
And so we got a lot of distribution inquiries from our Facebook content.
Yep.
And then we went and actually just started doing LinkedIn campaigns where we would identify countries that we weren't in, and we wanted to say, let's say it was the UK, for example. We would just go use my LinkedIn. So I picked up quite a few followers from doing this. And we would just identify a country, and then we would search for keywords. We would find the right people that were relevant to the companies that we wanted to work with, and then we'd use my LinkedIn, and which is a premium account because you want it to be like show validity and show that it's real.
Yep.
And then we would just contact people over and over and over all day.
Yep.
Not spamming people. Like the messages that we'd write to people were authentic and personalised, and just explaining our product, saying how well it's going, saying we'd love to expand into the UK, and we would be looking for a distributor. And so we just did that in all these different countries, and we expanded Phantom just so much through LinkedIn.
Yeah,
And so that's how that worked. And Shader, we kept predominantly e-commerce, and Shader went from being organic content, which was really lucky, and then we then went into paid ads. And so Facebook at the start of Shader converted really well, and then the story goes, doesn't convert as well as it used to.
Yep.
So now we've switched over to TikTok and to Instagram.
Okay.
And so now we still are on Facebook, but it just doesn't convert like it used to. So now with Shader, we do a lot of influencers, micro influencers, and then we just run a lot of ads.
Yep.
But again, the content that we run, and I say this all the time, we don't just pump a heap of ads out continuously. We try and get really clever ads or really eye-catching ads so that you're not just throwing money against the wall. You want to be really sort of focusing your attention in the right places so that they convert and you're not just blowing heaps of cash.
Yeah, that's right. It's never a good strategy, is it?
No, but I mean, so if you link up with a lot of agencies, they do just throw a lot of money at ads, and I totally appreciate that you have to do that at the start, have a bit of a scattergun approach and work out what does work and then refine it. But I just think if you can put more effort and more time into your ads, and that content is really compelling and clever and catchy, that time is really well spent.
Yeah, 100%. I guess it just amplifies the message. If it's a bad video or if it looks like an ad, it's going to get amplified as an ad and it's not going to get the cut through.
That's right.
But if it's if you're part of the community, if you're native to the platform and it doesn't look like an ad, you probably get much better cut through.
You do.
And that the creative is kind of the thing that stands out on those platforms now, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Like if you have average creative, you're just gonna waste your ads.
I actually heard we've done this by accident,
Yeah.
totally by accident, and it works. And then after researching it, people do it on purpose, and that is if you put mistakes in your ads, and then people comment on the mistakes. So people will always pick up, oh, he had a watch on his left hand and now it's on his right hand, or look at the clock in the background, it was 10 o'clock and now it's 4 o'clock. And people comment on the mistakes.
Yeah.
And we've had a few ads that have had either mistakes or the comments that you say in the video may not be factually correct by accident.
Yeah.
And people just comment and comment and comment, but then what that's doing is that's just fueling the algorithm, and you're just getting. It's like one of your best performing ads is the ads that have mistakes in them.
Yeah. It's just, sorry to cut you off. It reminds me, I had a client, let's just call them a national sporting body. I don't know why I'm protecting them, but it's, no one did anything wrong. But they had a player within their league, and she said some things that perhaps weren't great, and she was getting attacked on social media for what she said. It wasn't anything out of character. It just wasn't quite, in the spirit of what she was after or whatever. Anyway, they rang us because we were running ads for that round, and they said, "You got to cancel the ad because people." I said, "People are commenting. Let's roll this thing. Let's keep it like it's not bad as long as there's no obviously sort of it's not outside the boundaries.
Yeah.
But people are emotional about this. Like we shouldn't be cancelling it.
Yeah.
We should let this thing run because people are emotionally invested, and the more comments, the better.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I think to your point, it's a great strategy that works as long as it's done tastefully and authentically.
That's right.
You can have a little bit of a play around with some mistakes.
Yeah.
It's the same with emails as well. Like I don't know if there's an actual strategy around sending an email and then say, oops, I left something out and they email again.
Yeah.
That's a strategy. I don't like it, but I think it works.
I saw a YouTube video on a guy talking about the mistakes that he puts in his videos.
Okay.
And so he just puts tiny little purposeful mistakes. So he does videography and photography, and he did a 3D render. Oh, it wasn't a render, it was like a skateboard video, a really high quality skateboard video that he did. And anyway, the wheel comes onto the skateboard, and the wheel was shown, the outside of the wheel was going onto the skateboard like this.
Yep.
But then in the next scene, the wheel was back to front.
Okay.
And he did it on purpose.
Yeah.
And everyone was just commenting. It was wheels going backwards, that wheel's back to front in the previous shot. And he did it on purpose, and it worked. And he demonstrated exactly what he did, and then he demonstrated the result.
Yeah.
And it's not offending anybody. It's not, it's not factually incorrect.
Yeah.
He just, made a mistake, and it just propelled this video.
Yeah. Any kind of hook or anything you can get to people go, oh, hang on, and I'll comment.
Yeah.
It's it works. Like
it
you know,
works.
yeah,
Because you just want to, and that comes back to having that good content. It's whether you're making a mistake or you're saying something a bit contentious, you need people to just be engaging with it.
Yeah, well, it's the same as, you know, the Kane Corns effect, right? Like, you know, not many people actually agree with him or a lot of the time, but he gets cut through because he's polarising. So I think you polarize, that probably is a bit of a lens of being polarising in terms of making some mistakes. But people, you know, the more comments, the better. Yeah,
I actually saw Kane Corns in the Virgin Lounge last week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I went and had a chat to him because we were both standing there waiting for our coffees.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I think most of those guys are. You know, I think they just,
he's a nice guy.
They've got a job to get stats and to get, you know,
he does a good job.
He does it. He gets people sucked in all the time.
Yeah.
He hasn't got me yet, but you know.
Well, we're talking about him.
Yeah, true. You've got a bit of you've got a real passion for product development. We've got a lot of listening. That sounds quite egotistical. We've got a lot of listeners. Our listeners on the podcast are very much e-com enthusiasts. I'd imagine there is a group that are looking to start in e-com. You've obviously got good experience in that space, but where do you start and how do you actually develop a product? Can you take us behind the process of that?
Yeah.
And then any lessons in terms of, I guess, dealing with China and all those sorts of things, which is probably a whole other podcast. But how do you go from sort of concept through to having an e-com store selling a product?
I don't even know if you probably don't even know this, but I'm actually just in the finishing stages of a course that teaches people. And now I feel like one of those guys doing a course because everyone's doing a bloody course.
But that's it. I've got a course coming out soon.
And it's actually not finished. I've been working on it I've actually been making notes. I've got a notebook that I make notes about experiences and things. And I thought I would pull it all together and make a product development course because I allow or I welcome people to ask me questions on LinkedIn, and I always try and help out. I was finding that there are so many questions with product development. It's such a broad process that you go through from the moment you have just an idea all the way through to actually having something you can sell. There are so many steps, and so when someone would come to me with an idea and they would say, "Hey, can you what do you think I should do next?" I can give them the answer, but then they'll come back to me again for some more help and more because there are so many little individual steps that you have to take. And if you take them out of order, or you don't take some of them and just miss them all together, it can be quite detrimental and really slow you down and really cost you a lot of money. And so that's why I thought, well, I'll pull together all of my information and do a course. And it's not going to be some sort of like, masterclass, secrets of the trade, like revealing his secrets. It's not like that at all. It's actually just me putting down in a course exactly what I do. So when I come up with an idea, these are the steps that I take from here's an idea, and step one, I Google it and make sure that I haven't just invented something that already exists. And then it's a step-by-step process. If you can follow the step-by-step process, it's not that difficult. But if you've never done it and you don't know what to do, it's almost impossible to do it, or almost impossible to do it well. And so, even when I was developing, say, the Phantom Doorstop, it was the first product that I'd developed. There wasn't any sort of rule book or course or guideline that I could follow. There were a lot of individual pieces of information you could pull, like, for example, like how to get a patent, how to get engineering drawings done, how to set up a website, how to, all these things you could kind of cherry pick and then learn, but then to piece it all together and know the step-by-step process that you have to take, certainly not at the time. There wasn't really anything at all that did that. And so I had to learn the hard way how to develop a product, and I made so many mistakes. But yeah, I think once the course goes live and I'll start sharing it, I think people will find it very useful, and it'll be applicable to anyone doing a physical product. It won't be tech; it'll just be physical product. But there are so many steps. I think the course currently has 22 modules that it goes through, and that's all the way through from just conceptualization to tooling drawings to getting prototypes made to placing your first order, IP, all the way through to shipping, shipping marks. There's just so many little things you've got to get right. That, even the professionals make those mistakes even today, and they can be really detrimental. So you might have seen just a few weeks ago that Oodie had to do a huge product recall because they did a children's Oodie, and they didn't label it correctly with kids' products. If they can be flammable in any way, or if they're like a bedding product, they have to have a caution flammable warning tag on it, and they didn't have that warning tag, and so they had to recall them all. And of course, the Oodie sells so much product. It was just such a small miss, but had such a big, detrimental effect. And so that's what I'm trying to eliminate for people when they do want to go on a product development journey. Is just having a step-by-step process that they can follow, so that they understand where they're at in the process, understand the costs that they're going to have, and then they're confident enough to go through and finish it off.
That sounds amazing. Sign me up for the sign me up for the course. I've got a few good ideas. Got a few ideas. We'll see if they're good or not. In terms of sort of different products and things like that. It's always been the hardest thing, is to how do you actually get it there. And from a timeline point of view, what's again, it's such a hard question to answer, but 12 months from idea to samples, prototypes.
I think you could do it inside 12 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. And it depends what it is. But I think one of the best pieces of advice that I would give to anyone who does have a product idea is to just keep it really simple at the start. Because with any product, no matter what it is, you will always come up with all of the extra things that it can and could do. So if you look at something like, say, the shader. The shader is a beach shade that shades your head. But the first iteration that we did on Kickstarter, it had a solar charged power bank, it had a fan, it had drinks holders, it had a pillow that you could freeze so that it was cold. It had all this stuff, right? But all that extra stuff that we added at the start, it was too much product development to do in a short window of time. And so we ended up just making mistakes. The fans didn't work, the power banks, we couldn't ship them through the air, you're not allowed to air freight power banks. Just all these things made what was a really simple product, a beach shade that shades your head. By adding them all, it actually just made it complicated, unnecessarily complicated, and the people were buying it for its core use. And so I think in any product development, it's great to have all the add-ons, but you're better off to just start with core functionality, your MVP, go live with your MVP, make sure people want it, and then you can do your add-ons in due course. Don't just launch with everything. And also, what that does is it also helps you just align your focus and make sure that you get that core product right. And it's a really good, high-quality product. You go live with it, and then you can do your add-ons. And then also you get like a longer tail on your sales, because then you can sell to your core group and then add product and then retarget your email list with your add-on product, and then you can keep doing that. Whereas if you just give everyone everything at the start, it takes forever to go live, it costs more money, and then you don't have as long a tail on your sales because you've literally just thrown everything at them at the start.
True. And then you don't, as you say, that iteration process, I guess you're still testing the market at that point as well. So just get one product that does what it says on the box, and then move on to improving it.
Spot on.
A couple more questions. You've obviously done well with e-com brands. How do you think e-commerce business owners set themselves up best for success? What have you seen that works well, and what have you seen from a mistake point of view?
I think the margins in your products have to be really high now. Back when Facebook ads converted really well, it actually felt a lot easier than what it does now. And I feel like it puts a lot more pressure on you as the business owner to have high margins in your products. So, for example, I've had products that were viable, say 4 or 5 years ago, that aren't anymore. Just because the margins don't stack up. So you're always trying to find ways to ship a product cheaper to people, or strip some weight out of things, or manufacture something for less whilst keeping the quality high. So I think finding that high margin products are so important. And then with all of my e-commerce experience, having good add-ons is super important. So like the shader, for example, one of our best add-ons is a towel. We sell a lot of sand-free towels, and they have a low cost but have a high value. So people buy the shader, and then we sell a bundle with the towel, and that's our best product that we can sell. We actually don't make that much profit on one shader, but we do make good profit on a shader and a towel. So I think having clever bundles really helps e-commerce, and everyone does this, and it's common knowledge. But having high margin add-ons just really helps do that. And then I think we're trying to use a lot of AI now to lower the amount of staff that we need, and then also increase our output. So all of our videos are getting edited by AI, and so the amount of content that you can put out has gone up a lot, just simply thanks to AI. So your editing times are down, your cost to put video and content together is really low. So I think that's going to be a big turner, a big future for AI, for e-commerce. And then something I'm passionate about, and I work in this space and have been putting a lot of time and effort into, and that's cross-border business. So selling products in China is something that I'm really passionate about. So I have a business that sells Australian brands into China, which is the reverse way of how things normally go. A lot of stuff gets made in China, and then we buy it and it comes here. But we sell products that actually often start in China. They come to Australia as an Australian brand, and then we sell it back to China. Because the Chinese market has a lot of trust in Australian brands. They see Australia as high quality, and so it's easier for Australian brands to sell into China sometimes than what it is for them to sell here in Australia. So I think there will be a really big future in selling into China. The Chinese e-commerce space is just astronomical. Like, it is so big, and their influencers, which are known as KOLs, key opinion leaders, are so influential. The sales that their KOLs create are just astronomical. And a lot of that is through they do live streaming. So they do sales campaigns and they do live streaming. I think that TikTok is just starting to get into that as a sales platform, and I think that's going to be a big shift in e-commerce.
Interesting. I've been talking about live shipping for quite a while, and I feel like it hasn't really been done well here in Australia yet.
No.
But I don't know if you know Brendan Gillen, who works in this building as well. But he just released a video the other day talking about live shipping. I think we've been talking about it for a while. It's going to get there to a point, because you get, if you build up the event correctly, get people to, and then go live, and then give them a fair value exchange to take another one of Brendan's lines. It's hard not to work when you've got that captive audience.
There's a guy in China called Austin Lee, and they call him the Lipstick King.
Right.
And he has done a live stream that sold $1 billion of product. Like, that's like Kim Kardashian exposure
100%.
on steroids. And then there's a lady called Waya. She sells all sorts of things, but between Waya and Austin Lee, like, the amount of product that they can sell is just astronomical. And it's all through live streaming. And it's just it will catch on here. There is no doubt about it at all. I'm going to China at the end of October, and I'm checking out one of the live streaming studios. So they actually have rooms, it's like almost like a warehouse, like a big office, and it's just like a little room with someone sitting in this purposely built room that looks, nice for filming, and they're just sitting there live streaming, and they'll be live streaming about this cup, and then they'll be live streaming about lipstick, then they'll be constantly live streaming, and it's just a sales platform, and they're just selling live.
That's
That's, I think, will be It will, like it's coming.
It will,
but
yeah, 100%.
In Western culture, Western society, I think it will become very, very prevalent in the next few years, because in China, it is the way.
Yeah, okay. That's a good tip to leave us on.
Mm-hmm.
Mate, I've probably got through a quarter of the questions I had, and even just sort of more questions come as we chat. But before we go, Sellar Capital.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give that? That's sort of what you're most sort of invested in at the moment. Is that sort of the business that you're concentrating on at the minute?
Sellar Capital is my firm. I started when I won the TV show. I set up an investment company called Sellar Capital, and it's a family office. We just invest in different things. So we invest in e-commerce brands. I invest in startups, and I invest in property. So most of my investments are actually in property. Well, probably the most cash is in property. So I think as I'm getting sort of through and more experienced, I've identified that I can't do too much myself. So I can't run all these things. It's just not possible. And so when I was in my, say, early 20s, and I was trying to do way too much. And even in my late 20s, I was still trying to do way too much. And I was just finding that, you know, to fix a business that isn't working, the answer is not another business. That's not the answer. And so I have now, I think, just gotten better at identifying what can make money and what won't. And now my model is that if I find something that I really like, and we spoke about it off camera before and we can't talk about it because it's confidential, is a business that I'm working on in India, and I really believe in that business, and I really believe it can be massive, but I know that I don't have the capacity to run it as its CEO. So my model has changed a lot in the last few years, where if I have a business that I'm passionate about, I'll either invest in that business and make sure it's got a good CEO, a good general manager, someone to operate it, or I'll start a business, I'll put the money into it, and then I'll put a good CEO into it. I don't want to be the CEO of these businesses. It's not where my skill set is. My skill set is actually in doing business development, in identifying products at work, in doing product development, but actually being the CEO, I don't think is actually my strength. And so I think it's probably a good lesson for any entrepreneur or any startup person. Just because you're the founder doesn't mean you are the CEO. Doesn't mean you're the best person to be the CEO. At the start, you kind of have to be, because usually it's just you, right? But at some point, you might identify, well, okay, I am the founder. I've been able to get this business now sort of over the first few hurdles. It's making some money. Should I find someone who would operate this business better than me? And then I can focus, maybe it's product development, maybe it's business development, maybe it's marketing, maybe that's your strength. And being the general manager or the CEO is not actually your strength. And so that's sort of where Sellar Capital sits. I do the investing, and then I just make sure that I have a really good operator who runs those businesses. So even Tumblebear, I'm not in charge of Tumblebear. I own it. I guess I'm the chairman. I'm the founder. I don't know. Major shareholder. But I don't actually run that business. And same as Shader. I actually don't run Shader. Because I can't. I don't have the capacity to run all these businesses. So I just make sure I have someone who's really reliable, a good operator, and they are the general manager, and then I support them, sit above them, help with the strategy, and then grow the business. And that's it. You can only, you've only got 24 hours in a day like everybody else, and you've got a family and so much other stuff going on. So, I mean, it makes sense. I guess it's harder to execute when you're in those sort of businesses, but if you can take that sort of helicopter view and you go, well, obviously there's someone better that be able to run this and take it further than what you can with so much going on. So Alex Hermosi talks about it a lot, and he's a great person to listen to, and he's just spot on in that if you want to give yourself multiple revenue streams, you're better off to just focus on one, get it working, and then diversify. I saw him speak about this just last week or the week before, and it's true. It's 100% right. I've done it the wrong way, and I feel like now I'm doing it, and have been for a few years, doing it the right way. And when I look back at what I was doing in my early 20s, I was just running around like a crazy person, overworked, continuously trying to run this thing, run this thing, run this thing. And I was just underservicing all of them. Whereas had I just focused on one, I would have got that one much further. Then I could have put a general manager in. Then I could go to the next.
Yeah,
that's the better way to do it. And yeah, that's the way that I do it now. And thankfully, I can do that because I've made good investments in property and I won the TV show. So it's not like I'm some guru. I've just had circumstances that have allowed me to make mistakes and grow as I sort of, am getting older and more experienced and better at being a businessman and an entrepreneur.
Yep.
I sort of reached this point where I'm like, God, I wish I was doing that. I wish I was doing this then.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you think that, but you just can't put an old head on young shoulders, can you? And if you didn't learn the lessons, probably the best way we learn, unfortunately, is the hard way at times. So you got to kind of learn and evolve and adapt. But the same. Like even starting this podcast, I didn't want to start the podcast because I didn't want to be shit at it. And I was like, well, you're going to be shit. It doesn't matter when you start.
That's right.
So you can't fast track the tough times of the learning experiences. So. I think that's sort of that's going to set you up well. You say you're old, you're 36. Mate.
Yeah, I'm not old, but I'm not.
You're old. You've done a lot.
When I started, and hopefully that's what people get out of these podcasts. They get to listen to me, and they might be in their 20s or they might be older than me, and they're starting their entrepreneurial journey. But they could listen to what I've experienced and go, well, I'll learn from that. I don't have to make as many mistakes, or I don't have to go through all these trials and tribulations. I can just learn from this guy, and I won't make the mistakes that he did.
Yeah, well, they'll make different mistakes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
You can't get away from it. But mate, appreciate you jumping on the podcast for the first in studio podcast. So thanks again for your time, and
mate, thank you.
We'll get through the next the next half of the questions at another time.
I'd love to. Thanks, mate.
Legend.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Cheers.